On today's episode of Watch JR Go, a new heart for my 2014 Jag F-Type. What is going on, guys? I am Watch JR Go, and as you can see, I'm out in the truck, and if you look out the back window, you can see the new 3-liter for the F-Type. You can also hear there's some police here according to the old Escort IXCI, and they're very close. Never gets old having the radar alerts in the dash. Now, we are back at the shop with my new engine for the Jag F-Type. Now, why do I have a new engine when I said I was going to rebuild this one? Well, of course, if we go back to the video where I told you guys you should never rebuild an engine, it turns out I'm still right. And that's backed up by every tech that's actually in the automotive industry and none of the do-it-yourselfers. So here we are with the 3.0 that came out of my Jag. And of course, we know that it has a bad head gasket or some type of cylinder failure in the number 3 cylinder back there. After I pulled this engine out, I posted it on my personal Facebook where I have a lot of friends that own shops, and one of them was like, oh yeah, we do a lot of those, and it is a nightmare getting that engine out. So I called him immediately, and I was like, this is the situation with the engine, what should I do? And he was like, man, we would be happy to help you with this. I'm sure we could put something together if you bring the engine up, and we could do the head gasket and put new timing sets in it and get all the work done. But I just did one for a couple. They spent about $4,000 to do just the head gaskets, and it failed 4 months later, and they ended up buying an engine. He also mentioned it's a 40-hour job. He would give me a super good hookup, and I'd be in about $1,000 in their labor plus whatever parts. So that was a pretty good deal. It meant that I might be able to get this engine back together for about $3,000, because that's what parts, a timing set, head gasket, and their labor, you know, $3,000. And then I talked to another one of my Jag friends that's a local shop working exclusively on JLR stuff for the most part. And he said, yep, I just did head gaskets on one. It failed again immediately after, and we had to go do all the work again. I think they actually put a replacement engine in, and he ate the cost for it, which is probably not the thing to do. But that's what he had to do to take care of his customer. So this engine basically cannot be saved if you don't know the history exactly. Everyone that knows anything about head gaskets knows that typically you're trying to get home, you see the car overheating, you don't stop the car, you keep driving it. 98% of America, the people that are not real car guys, are going to be like, it looked hot and the warning lights came on, so I just kept driving it and I got home, but now it needs to go to the shop. Well, it's way too late at that point. The engine is trash, especially a full aluminum block like this. It got super hot, everything moved around, and who knows? Maybe this one was shut down immediately. Maybe it's got cracked cylinder walls. Either way, it's probably not worth taking the risk of spending $3,000 on this engine and then doing it again immediately after. So I spent $9,000. This is another Jag 3.0 supercharged that came from LKQ here in town. They have absolutely taken care of me on this. It has a 12-month warranty on the engine. Even better, it has the same mileage as the car it's going in, 34,000 miles, a brand new car. Deserves basically a brand new engine. So it is covered by a 12-month warranty. They said it was parts and labor. They said they would pay me to take it back out if it failed and put another one back in. So an amazing deal. I'm excited about that. They did do a typical salvage yard pull on it, so everything is still connected to the engine, but it's all just cut up. So I will have to strip this thing all the way back down. That's kind of today's plan, to get it undressed, get all the lines off it, get all the wiring off it, and hopefully I won't need to pull the supercharger on this one. I would love to not buy a set of intake gaskets. Another bonus, check this out. The supercharger coupler. No rattles at all. It feels great. Now, it doesn't have a brand new water pump, but it does have a water pump that I'm sure works. Unfortunately, it has some seepage in there, so it would be cool to change the water pump to mine, but then I would have to buy water pump gaskets. If this was an LS or some American car, I would buy every gasket, no question. But since it's JLR, none of these gaskets will exist in the city. They'll all be special order. They'll all be weeks out. It'd be good if this engine was back in the car like tomorrow. Unfortunately, this vacuum pump down here, they broke off the little line connector there. I think it just bolts on. It does. And there's quite a bit of oil from a leaky valve cover gasket going on here. We might have to get valve cover gaskets, a water pump gasket set, and I'm pretty sure I have to get exhaust gaskets. It's kind of a mess. we'll call Jag today and see what they say on a timeline to get all these gaskets in. It would be good to put all these in while it's out of the car, but for now, we can start getting this thing undressed and see what we're really working with. I called the Jag techs back and they still don't know what this little sensor is right behind the timing cover there. So if you know, let me know in the comments below. I'm sure somebody does. This engine's from an XF. I know they're the exact same engine, but it has an extra sensor. What could it be? It's not crank, it's not critical, it's not cam. All the cam sensors are up here, yeah, the cam variators, everything. It's all right here on the front of the engine. All of these sensors line up perfectly. All I know is it's not gonna get hooked back up. So tell me what it is in the comments below. Also, after talking to them, I have valve cover gaskets, water pump gaskets, intake gaskets, and exhaust gaskets all coming tomorrow. They will be here very quickly, which will let me change everything over. I guess we're changing it all. And of course, I love this supercharger because it has a great coupler in it. I think we're gonna have to swap snouts because I want to use the coupler out of this and the pulley off of that. So a little bit of snout swapping. Either way, let's strip this engine and get ready to start putting all the new stuff back together. First things first, we gotta get these straps off here. There's only one way to do it. Okay, well, it seems like a malfunction, but honestly, this thing throws its chain all the time. So I'm not really worried about it. Unstrapped, and we can start cutting. I bet coolant's gonna come out of everything. I'm gonna keep the LKQ tags for now. We've talked about it before, this engine is well instrumented. There are sensors everywhere, so it can manage temperatures, boost pressures, everything it needs to know to operate very well. There's the throttle body, these hoses need to come off. Honestly, all of these have to come off. I have all these for my engine, which is cool. I also learned a new thing today. The oil has to be sucked out of this engine. Well, I mean, you could drain it, or there's a straw right here under the oil cap, and you hook your oil suction machine right up there, suck the oil out, and fill it back up. And obviously there's no dipstick. There is an electronic oil monitoring system, just like all the new cars have. And Dana tells me it's possibly the worst one ever created in the history of the universe because it recalibrates every time the engine starts. So if you don't fill it up with oil and then you start it, it assumes that it's full of oil and then it waits for a change to happen. So the BMW ones are already horrific. I think they even went back to putting some oil dipsticks on their engines, but this one, it's the worst one. So that's a pretty cool thing to know. Another cool thing about the XF engine I noticed when I was picking it up, the Symposer is already deleted. It's got a block-off plate on it. I'm leaving that on there. We are not putting that Symposer back because I don't need the fake sounds from this. If anything, you want to get the sound from in front of the throttle body. That's where you can hear all the scream from the supercharger rotors. Back there, you're hearing more of the cylinder noise, which is, you really want the scream. You want the thing to sound like the Hellcat. That's why the Hellcat's awesome. It's pretty much bad at everything except grand touring and sounding good. This can be the same thing. One hose down. This engine is stripped and things just got a lot worse. I just heard back what it's gonna cost for all of the gaskets on this engine, $500 more because we're doing valve cover gaskets since we're in there. We're replacing all the brittle plastics. The Jag guys were like, you really wanna do that? Luckily, this one has the old school water thing that breaks under the supercharger. It's like a pipe that winds off into two pipes down into the block. It's just this whole big nonsense thing. It's this. This is the old school version right here. Well, luckily I have the new one. So we're going to use the new one off the old engine and put it over here because they said they've never seen a failure with that one. Apparently this part fails on every single one of them. Also, I figured out what this giant thing is down there. That's actually the thermostat housing, and it has a thermostat open-close sensor from what I can tell. So that's kind of cool. So this engine's stripped, all the exhaust is off, coils are out, the injectors are gonna get pulled tomorrow. They're gonna let me borrow all the tools to pull the injectors and do all that work. So that's gonna be very nice. And we gotta get the supercharger off, everything switched over, the supercharger back on, all these covers on, the engine cleaned up, and it ready to drop in, hopefully in just one day. So there you have it, what is now almost a $10,000 engine swap to put this car back on the road. It's insane, I know, but there's not really much you can do about it. Part of that was new water pump gaskets because there's a brand new water pump on that engine, and this one had the plastic little, I guess a steam port coming off the front, and it broke, of course, so we're gonna put the new pump on there. It only makes sense. If you got a new one, run the new one. So that is it for today, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to head on over to shop.watchjaguar.com for cool shirts, not like this, and please like, share, subscribe, do whatever you wanna do, and I will talk to you next time. Also, just a note, no Milwaukee chainsaws were harmed in the making of this video. It works just fine. I'm gonna be honest with you guys though, the oiler in that saw quit working 1 hour into its life, and it's never worked. It does not oil the chain, but it just keeps on running. So I guess I just keep using it and don't run it as hard. I don't know what you're supposed to do. The oil pump it bit the dust. Nothing happens when you run the thing.